With less than 1 week left in the NHL regular season, things are coming to a head. The Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens continue to fight for the playoffs, while the Vegas Golden Knights have clinched their division and are looking forward to another potential long playoff run. We're going to cover that and a whole lot more next on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Canadiens, Laura Saba. And Laura, an exciting time for Canadiens fans. As we record this, they are so close to clinching a playoff spot after their overtime loss to Toronto. What is the buzz in and around this team right now with them on the precipice of reaching the playoffs?
I look back to American Thanksgiving because that seems to be the arbitrary number where people are like, oh, if a team is not in a playoff spot, then it's going to be really hard for them to regain it. But if you look at what it looked like then and what it looks like now, there's a lot of teams that were expected to make it that are not in that picture anymore. You know, the New York Rangers got eliminated. The New York Islanders, sorry, Gil, got eliminated. The Detroit Red Wings got eliminated. So the only teams left alive, and by contrast, the Ottawa Senators are like well into wild card and even challenging to be a regular playoff spot, not a wild card spot. So the only two teams left are the Montreal Canadiens and the Columbus Blue Jackets, exactly as everyone predicted back in October or November. It's been a remarkable run for both teams. I think it's, it's been a fun time. It has been stressful at times, but the Montreal Canadiens really seem to have taken massive strides. At the beginning of the season, the front office and the coach said they wanted the Canadiens to be in the mix and playing meaningful games in March. Here we are in April, and the Canadiens are playing meaningful games still, as are the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're very, very close. So as we listen to this, there's still a game to be played between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Washington Capitals that could decide the Canadiens' fate. If the Blue Jackets lose in regulation, the Habs are in. If the Blue Jackets win in regulation, they're still alive. If they win in overtime, then the tragic/magic number becomes 1, and the Canadiens only need 1 point. So the game could really determine it. But the way that I've chosen to see it is the Montreal Canadiens are in control of their own fate. And all they need to do is they need to win their next game, which is Monday night, the day that you're listening to this, against the Chicago Blackhawks.
And then how much pressure is on them if they need to win that game, just because their last game is not an easy game on the schedule?
It's really not. It's against the Hurricanes, who the Canadiens managed to really beat handily and then also be crushed by over the course of the season. So it's not set in stone. But really, the Canadiens squandered 2 opportunities to clinch. They had a game in Ottawa and a game in Toronto on Friday and Saturday, and they lost the game in Ottawa. And they lost in overtime to the Leafs, which is small comfort because, yes, they did reduce that magic/tragic number to 1. However, it would have been nice to win, particularly since the Leafs have been really tough for them to beat this whole season.
A lot of buzz right now about the arrival of Ivan Demidov to the team. He is expected to make his debut Monday against Chicago. Talk to me about what he brings to the table for this team. And this is almost like a bonus trade deadline edition because you're getting a talented, fresh player before the playoffs start.
A talented, fresh player who the Canadiens are lucky fell to 5th, right? This is a player that was slated to go second even, but the teams ahead of them obviously had other plans. They had other players that fit better into their futures, they thought. So the Canadiens kind of quietly sat down while they waited for Ivan Demidov to fall to them, and they got really lucky. They're getting a massive potential talent. He has had I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong. The listeners will probably correct us if I'm wrong. He has had the greatest rookie season in the KHL. And despite the fact that he was played only a couple minutes a game and often on the fourth line, he was healthy, scratched a lot. So he still managed to do that. He's very dynamic. He's got incredible talent. The Montreal Canadiens do need scoring. They need a lot of help up front. They also are struggling a little bit with their second line. Their second line hasn't really been able to find its footing all season. And there's high potential players on there as well. So I think that that's really a possibility of that's where they play him, at least for now. I think over the course of his career, he is eventually going to steal a spot on the first line and be a first liner. But right now, it's just his first game. I think they're going to ease him in. There's a lot of pressure. People camped out in front of the arrivals at Pearson when he was due to arrive. So, this is European soccer buzz levels for a player here in Montreal. So I think it's going to be a big deal. But what he brings, I think, is really just this offensive creativity, this talent, he's big, he's fast, he's smart, he's unbelievably skilled. And all Marty's going to need to do is kind of direct that skill, and he's going to be phenomenal.
Who do you think are his most likely line mates initially?
For now, I think he's going to go with Newhook and Patrick Laine. I think for sure, but I don't see a future with him not on the Nick Suzuki line, like in the long term. I think for now, they're not going to break up that top line. I think, and it doesn't need help, right? Like it's the second line that really does need help. And the other two lines are fine too. And it would be a mistake to play Ivan Demidov on the bottom six unless it's just to ease him in on the first game, because his talent is too great. His offensive ability is too great. So I feel like, let's say for the 2024-2025 season, we're going to see him on the second line. And then next season, it's going to be a whole other story.
And how about the power play? Do you think he fits there and first unit, second unit?
I think it's going to be like a Lane Hudson story where Marty starts him on the second unit, and then before long he's on the first unit. The Montreal Canadiens power play is struggling of late because Patrick Laine, with his massive, I think he has 20 goals on the power play, if I'm not mistaken, on the season, 20 or 19, I can't remember. And so, the opposing teams are focusing on Patrick Laine, and Montreal had gotten really used to just feeding him the puck. And so they're kind of like, their creativity is lacking when Patrick Laine is being well defended on that power play. So giving them another option, giving them somebody who I think also the key is that Ivan Demidov is so fresh and so young. He's going to be taking risks. And I think that's what the power play needs, is that they're so risk averse. They need to be able to take risks in order to be more creative, more dynamic, more aggressive. And I think Ivan Demidov will bring that before he has the creativity crushed out of him, which I don't think is Marty's MO. But I do think that it's definitely like his daring nature is going to be the change. It's going to be the big factor, just like Lane Hudson was.
You alluded earlier to the fact that not a lot of people expected the Canadiens to be in this spot right now. In fact, they didn't even necessarily expect themselves to be. What are some of the biggest reasons they got here this year?
So I think it's going to sound a little bit single-minded, and I will expand on that a little bit. I think Lane Hudson has been really the difference maker. And I say this because, he's on the verge of having a record-breaking season. All he needs is one more point in the NHL to break Chris Chelios' record for rookie scoring on the Montreal Canadiens in history. I think the thing has been that we can talk about Nick Suzuki has taken a step forward, scored more points than he ever has. We can talk about Cole Caulfield scoring 37 goals, almost to 40. He might not hit 40. He's only got 2 games left to do it. But, it's huge, right? 37 goals is not nothing. You've got that. You've got the ability for the bottom six. Like there have been, like the Jake Evans with Yoel Armia combination on penalty killing and Emil Heineman. You can't discount that. Just on that bottom six role, right? And then you have somebody like Josh Anderson, who last year was a player that people had completely given up on. Marty started playing him on the penalty kill, and all of a sudden he's become an effective player again. I think Brendan Gallagher has had a little bit of a renaissance, and I think he's he plays very physically. He's starting to get a little bit older. So last year I think his body was just too banged up, but this year he's playing with like a new life, a new vigor, right? And then what ties it all together though is that Lane Hutson is able to break games. Like he's a game breaker, right? Like if the game is not going well, I literally witnessed it like in front of my eyes when I went to see a Habs game in Buffalo with Ian and my former co-host Scott. Like the game wasn't going well, and then all he did was he took it over. Like when he's on the ice, he controls the play, and I think that's been a factor for helping other people step up as well. So like when you see Patrick Laine scoring on the power play, often when you look at the assist, you'll see that it started with a play from Lane Hutson, right? Alex Newhook cannot be discounted. His scoring isn't up. His scoring is actually like, it's not a whole lot to be desired. But when you watch him, he's one of the best players to bring the puck into the zone, right? Like the zone entry has gotten better. So if every single player on this roster has gotten a little bit better at one thing or two things, and then you take your Nick Suzuki, massive stride forward, you take your Brendan Gallagher playing like, when he was young, and you take your Cole Caulfield, massive stride forward, even Juraj Slafkovsky, like he struggled at the beginning. He's got it back now. He's second half Slav. The challenge for him is going to be like a full season Slav next year. But if you take all those little things and then you add the Lane Hutson, I don't think it's surprising that, you're talking about a team that finished like bottom 5 last year and is now literally like one of the top 16.
Yeah, big amount of progress there in Montreal. Laura, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
So we are Locked On Canadiens, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, just like this podcast. We are all over social media. We are on Blue Sky at Locked On Canadiens. We're on TikTok at Locked On Canadiens. We're on Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. You can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. My co-host is Maybe It's Ian all over social media. I am at The Active Stick all over social media.
All right, Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with marketing campaign, Upwork can help you connect with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Flames, Jess Belmosto. And Jess, less than a week left in the season, and the Flames are still fighting for one of those wild card spots. Talk to me about the resilience and determination of this team.
It really feels like they have just fully embodied this underdog, we're not going down without a fight mentality. And I think that that's always been part of the Flames character as an organization. And I think that, they came into the season projected to be a bottom 5 team by everyone. No one expected them to be a sleeper playoff team. So for them to still be playing meaningful hockey last week in the season, I think fuels them. I think that they run on a little bit of spite and just determination in proving everyone wrong.
Gotta ask about Dustin Wolf and what he's meant to this team this year. I get the feeling he's not going to win the Calder, but he should at least be a finalist. For people who don't watch a lot of Calgary Flames games, talk to me about his impact.
So without Dustin Wolf, the Flames would absolutely be a bottom 5 team. He has kept them in it and really dragged this team to this point in the season. Just phenomenal rookie goaltender who has the pedigree that really anyone would want in a goaltender. So the Flames got really lucky there. And just the athleticism, the focus, the emotional and like mental maturity, I think for a 23, 24-year-old is phenomenal, and just something that Flames fans and really hockey fans should really be on the lookout for. People outside of Calgary have said that he's got the likings of Connor Hellebuck, so we'll see about that.
Yeah, not bad company, and he seems to just show unbelievable poise for a rookie, especially.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, because I would probably smack my teammates with the stick when they let up goals and like just don't play defense. But he's really good kid.
A lot of people know about players like Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar. Talk to me about a player who doesn't make headlines, but who has been a big part of the success of the Calgary Flames this year.
I would say Connor Zary and Matt Coronado. Connor Zary is likely missing the rest of the season due to an injury, but has been a fantastic just net front presence, great goal scorer, has the energy that the lineup needs. Matt Coronado, he came into the season being the 13th forward, and then they sent him down to the Wranglers, and no one was happy about that. His agent was tweeting about it, saying like, this is ridiculous, which everyone understood. And then they called him back up, and he has stayed through the whole season pretty much. It's been just consistent goal scoring. His skating has gotten a lot better, a lot of clutch goals, and even when he's not scoring, his shots on net are still good shots. They're not just lazy. He has a great release, a great aim, and I think that if all things go right, he's one of the players the Flames should be building around.
Well, that's an impressive arc for one season, no question about that. Right now, 3 games left on the schedule. What are the keys to the Flames having a chance of pulling off this upset and getting into the playoffs this year?
Not getting too comfortable. Honestly, I think that the game against the Ducks and the game against the Wild were both fine examples of that. They blew a 3-1 lead to the Ducks, and then against the Wild, they had a 4-goal lead going into the third period, and they kind of took their foot off the gas and allowed 2 goals. And it got a little scary there in the final minutes, but they have to play every shift like it is the final shift of a game 7. Otherwise, they're just gonna coast, and that's not going to do them any good.
Do the Flames have to make the playoffs for this to be considered a successful season, or have they so far exceeded expectations that it's already been a success?
I think that making the playoffs was a wild shot in the dark to begin with. So I think that really just finishing the season in general would be a success. The fact that this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and Dustin Wolf kind of didn't get the memo for that one. But I think that really anything that they did was going to be a success, because if you look at it in terms of the rebuild, okay, great, you didn't play good hockey, so you're a draft lottery team. This is where you wanted to be. But you went out, you made some trades, you switched up your goaltender from last year, and maybe the rebuild can be moved a little faster. We're a little ahead of schedule. Although I do think they need to take off the rose-colored glasses this offseason and remember what we're fighting for and what we're trying to get away from.
So you mentioned the offseason. what is the next step to make this team, instead of a Cinderella story, a team that is expected to win more next year?
I think that they're going to have to really take a look at the draft and hit it out of the park again like they did last year. I think that's going to be a lot harder because they don't have that top 10 draft pick. Last year, they were able to get Zane Parekh at 9, which was huge. And, everyone was really excited to hopefully have that happen again this year. So I guess not signing any ridiculous free agent contracts either. They were able to avoid any long-term deals last July. So I'm hoping that they still have the vision in mind and maybe are able to go out and trade for a center that, fits that 23 to 25 age group that they're looking for.
How do you increase goal scoring? Because that statistically has been an issue all season.
You fire Ryan Huska and get an offensive-minded coach behind the bench. Huska seems like a great guy. He's done well for what he's had to work with, but there has to be some sort of adjustment. And I'm not sure if things are so defensively oriented because of the amount of change there was on the back end, and they needed to really focus on making up for the departures of, Noah Hannafin, Chris Tanev, but they have to figure something out.
And you think they can do that without undermining Dustin Wolf?
I think so. I think that, there's enough talented veterans on this roster to guide them to that, I would say. And also, if you get a full season of Connor Zary and Matt Coronado again, you're going to see more, definitely a lot more offense.
Jess, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can listen to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, and you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jess Belmosto.
Jess, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That is wonderfulpistachios.com. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, Chris Gawlik. And Chris, big news for Vegas. They clinched the division title. What does that mean for this team going forward?
Just another year in Vegas, another playoff run, fourth Pacific Division championship in not just 8 seasons, but the team's first 8 seasons. And that's a pinch me type of moment. One of my favorite moments actually happened during season 1. It was right after the Golden Knights defeated the San Jose Sharks and won the division back in 2018. And that was the moment where, like, okay, there's a good hockey team here. This isn't just a fluke. This is a real good hockey team, and watching the team celebrate on the ice. And it's amazing thinking about what happened between then and now.
Yeah, and this team just keeps finding ways to stay competitive, to stay at the top. And one thing that I think impresses me the most, the scoring depth that this team has. Talk to me about that and its importance for their success.
Brett Howden just scored his 23rd goal of the season last night. Brett Howden had 23 goals combined in the last 3 seasons before this season. Pavel Dorofeev is having a phenomenal breakout. It's not a rookie campaign, but it's a phenomenal breakout year. He's got 50 points, 33 goals. Going deeper, like a Keegan Colasar is having a fine season. Nicholas Waugh is right there. Tanner Pearson, a PTO in training camp, gets a deal after camp. He's got 27 points with 12 goals. Victor Olofsson, 14 goals. I mean, the depth is just absolutely phenomenal. And one of the biggest questions after, I guess you can call it Black July 1st here in Vegas, when Marchessault was gone, Logan Thompson was gone, Chandler Stevenson, Michael Amadio, Alec Martinez, William Carrier. I don't know if I forgot anybody. Where was the scoring going to come from? How is this team going to be successful? And what we just talked about with breakout years from a few players. And by the way, Jack Eichel, 93 points in 76 games is pretty solid too.
Yeah, amazing what happens when he stays healthy, right? I mean, it's
he's not healthy right now though, but yes.
Yes, over the season, relatively speaking, no doubt. Is there a particular opponent that you want to face more, and is there a particular opponent you think that creates a matchup problem or a bigger matchup problem for Vegas?
I mean, I'm sweating the Flames game right now. They're leading the Sharks, and the Flames do have a shot to shake up the bottom of the wild card. Blues are at risk, Wild are at risk. If the Flames win out, and especially in regulation, that really can put some pressure on the Wild and the Blues, as they both have 1 game remaining, whereas the Flames have 2 games after the game they're playing right now. General perspective, the West is a gauntlet. Doesn't matter who you play. Not really. You got to go through them all at some point anyway. Winning the division gives the Golden Knights a shot at one of the wild card teams. Blues can always get hot. Of course, we saw what Binnington did in the Four Nations. That's going to be your number one concern with that team. Minnesota Wild, Marc-Andre Fleury will start there. He's in the twilight of his career, as he is either about to be in his last game if they don't qualify for the playoffs, or however long the Wild lasts will be Marc-Andre Fleury's end. You know, he wants to go out pretty high. Joel Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov are now back with the Minnesota Wild. That's not easy out. And if the Flames do sneak in, talk about a team on house money with no care in the world, nothing to lose. In order, I guess, give me the Flames, the Blues, then the Wild. Flames being the weakest of the bunch, but that doesn't mean they're not capable of upsetting the Gold. All these teams could upset the Golden Knights. That's the beauty of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
No doubt, and it's what makes it the most difficult trophy to win. You got to go through 4 rounds of quality opponents in order to win it. What would you say are the biggest keys to playoff success for the Vegas Golden Knights this year?
Health and goaltending and health can be mentioned in the same sentence. As the Golden Knights are in their last couple games of the season, right now they're without Alex Pietrangelo and Jack Eichel. Injury related, not illness, injury related. My gut tells me they are resting them, and if this was a playoff scenario or a must-win, 81st game of the season coming up where the Golden Knights had to win to give them a chance for the playoffs, I think both are probably out there playing. I really think they're trying to be careful. Alex Pietrangelo withdrew from the Four Nations due to a lingering issue was the official reasoning. The lingering issue, whatever it is, you can see it coming out because he's not had one of his better seasons. He's still getting his 20-plus minutes a game. It's just not as good as it's been. Eichel, obviously, he's been on fire, but he cooled off a little bit before he missed these last few games. By the way, Golden Knights, even with all these players out, are still 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. Nicholas Hague, we think that's illness related. He's been out for the last couple games as well. So no Jack Eichel, no Stanley Cup, no Alex Pietrangelo, probably no Stanley Cup. Those two got to come back. And I mentioned goaltending a second ago. Aiden Hill, congrats to Aiden. 50 appearances in the 24-25 season. My number one knock on Aiden was his ability to stay healthy. He got 27 appearances his first season with the Golden Knights, a career high. 35 appearances the following season, a career high. Got a very nice contract extension just maybe a month ago, a month and a half, 2 months ago now, however long it's been. And good on Aiden for getting 50 appearances. He'll probably finish the season with 51 appearances. So a new career high. If he can stay healthy in the playoffs, he put up the second best save percentage in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs when they started monitoring that stat. Second to only Tim Thomas, I believe, on the Bruins Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, so an impressive run. And again, if he can stay healthy and stay hot, obviously that helps. Is there someone who you would consider an unsung hero of this team for this season?
I mean, Braden McNabb is always the easiest one to bring up. Plays every game, plays well every game, doesn't necessarily do a lot of things that make you scratch your head back there. But I'll go with Brett Howden this year. Complete breakout. Like we said earlier, 23 goals this season. Only had 23 goals the last 3 seasons combined. He's the Swiss Army knife of this Golden Knights forward roster. He's had some times as the top, some games as the top line center recently. He's played as the fourth line center. He's played as a fourth line winger. He kills penalties. He's played on the second line wing. He has centered a line with Mark Stone historically for a while when the Golden Knights had their Stanley Cup run. So looking at what Brett Howden has done, and the Golden Knights locked him up on a gem of a deal. I think it was $3 million AAV or $3.5 million AAV for like 4 or 5 seasons, and absolute steal. Kelly McCrimmon certainly knew what he was getting when he made that deal, and good on McCrimmon, good on Howden for delivering. But pretty easily to say Howden is the unsung hero. Maybe a write-in vote for Pavel Dorofeyev for basically replacing Jonathan Marchessault's scoring outputs.
How big of a concern is the penalty kill heading into the playoffs?
I don't know. I mean, you got such a good roster right now. This is still that defensive core that's one of the most feared defensive cores in the entire National Hockey League. Pietrangelo and Hannafin, 2 players that can get 25 minutes a game out there. Shea Theodore is going to be the third one over. And then what Jack Eichel does as a two-way player, what Mark Stone does as a two-way player. Nicholas Waugh is an excellent penalty killer. I got this deep. I didn't even mention William Karlsson or Riley Smith, the power kill, the dynamic duo, so to speak, especially when the Golden Knights in the early years, that's so long ago, the early years, they're back in the day, 8 years ago. But looking at how well they performed together. So I'm talking myself off the ledge. I have zero concern once the calendar resets with the playoffs with the penalty kill.
All right, Chris, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yep, we are Locked On Golden Knights. Anywhere you catch your podcasts on YouTube or anywhere you catch your podcast. And I am TD Chris G, like touchdown, TD Chris G on Twitter.
All right, Chris, thanks so much.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You could find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank my guests, Laura Saba of Locked On Canadiens, Jess Belmosto of Locked On Flames, and Chris Gawlik of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights for joining me today. I'm Gil Martin. I host the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, and I co-host the Friday edition along with Rachel Donner. Don't forget, we're here every day, Monday through Saturday, bringing you the biggest stories from around the hockey world. So make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and thanks for listening to and watching the Locked On NHL podcast.